What happened?
I have multiple propane tanks and other tanks on the property that's on fire.
Where's that?
It's on Raven Hill Drive. I have no idea where that's at.
Is that like Evergreenish area? Down that way?
Towards Evergreen, I think, because they put Evergreen in Central City on State Road. Multiple propane tanks and other tanks on the property that's on fire.
Where's that?
From Raven Hill Drive, I have no idea where that's at.
Is that like Evergreenish area? Down that way?
Towards Evergreen, I think, because they put Evergreen in Central City on State
Sit up here with us, please. You're a part of this, you know.
I am.
Just make sure you're not speaking on stuff.
Oh, I am a woman.
All right, folks, I have 8 a.m. on Wednesday, July 5th, 2023. Jen, may I have a roll call, please?
Okay, Paul Bowe,
Here.
Kevin Kuhar,
Here.
Mary Smith, Gary Haynes.
Here.
The Town of Georgetown Business Promotion Commission is an appointed board that enhances the economic climate in Georgetown, Colorado through marketing, events, and community outreach. The commission's goals are to support business license holders and nonprofit organizations to operate successfully and to create a positive experience for visitors. All right. May I, or would you please take a look at the agenda and would somebody make a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for July 5th, 2023.
Second. Is firsted and seconded. It's a slow morning, folks. All in favor? Aye. Okay, passes. Audience business. Members of the audience will have 5 minutes to present any matter of concern to the commission. No official action may be taken at this time. Those viewing on television may phone in comments to 303-569-2555, extension 7, or use the Zoom application. It doesn't look like we have any new business owners. So let's just jump into new and unfinished business. Mr. Hamilton, you're up. Strauss Park update, please.
Yeah, many of you may already know this, but the grant that we applied for funding to support growth in Strauss Park was denied. So that has set us back. The good news is that in the denial email to Rick, they indicated that there were a couple items that if we address those, they looked at the grant, our application favorably. They said they would really love for us to reapply in July. So we're doing that. And the issues were the ADA suitability for the flagstone and why did we choose flagstone, which, we can explain that. They couldn't fund, they won't fund the fire pit. That's outside of their allowed stuff. So we will fund the fire pit ourselves. And then they had a few questions regarding the public support, which I don't think we just didn't have a strong enough case in there, but we can certainly build that.
Who was the funding source? Who was the funding source?
CDOT.
CDOT.
The revitalizing Main Street grant. So what, I think since the last meeting I had here with you guys, I did go before the Board of Selectmen and they approved the project with a budget for this year of just over $400,000 pending, the grant supplement, which is $250,000. So the town has about $155,000 to work with. We kind of reassessed the budget. Our plan now is to spend town money, which we won't get matching funds from the grant for, Any work we do prior to receiving grant approval is on us. But we allocated $75,000 to go ahead and do, hopefully that'll be enough to do the underground work and the prep work in Strauss Park itself. We won't be doing anything in the parking lot, which is putting in the underground, the two light standards that go in there, putting in the foundation for the fire pit and the firewall. And then putting in the drainage for the gutters. So that is planned. We already relocated the water line from, little hose thing there over to inside the shelter. The plan is to go ahead with building the concession area. We need to get the concrete floor in, which we're now clear to do that. We could do that as soon as I get the concrete guy to come out here. I finally did get a bid from a concrete contractor after going to 5 different contractors. We got one to come in and it looks pretty good and he'll work with us. He's local out of Evergreen. So the plan is during July and August to get that work done, which would be we'll get started on the concession floor. We have the wood to build that, so that should go. So that's kind of the game plan. If we get the funding, we could start, we should be in a position to start doing hardscape immediately as soon as we're allowed to. One of the wrinkles there is I talked to Cindy, and even though we may hear in mid to late August, we really can't do anything with it until we actually have a contract, which could take anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. So we're likely going to, we are going to wind up going well into 2024, but the grant will extend into 2024. So that's the plan. The cost of the whole project, including hard paving of some sort in the parking lot, is over $500,000. But we'll have the opportunity to add top budget to that next year. So we can still get there, but we won't finish up this year. It'll be a year from now. That's kind of where we are. Any questions you have, I'll be happy to. And I'll just continue to give you guys the updates on this. But
Yeah, I go past the park all the time and I notice that you've been chipping away at the project, so keeps looking.
yeah, hopefully, Banky said he could get back in about 10 days, so not next, probably the week after next, we'll get him back there and he'll put a couple more drywalls in. We damaged the gutter, the short section of gutter, or Banky did that, so he's taking care of that, and we've already had it replaced by Canyon gutter, so. Yeah, we're doing like we did that. We're staying with local contractors, which is good, because they're a whole lot easier to deal with, and, we can get them to squeeze a few days in here and there, so. But the real challenge is going to be the flagstone. There's a 6 to 8 week lead time on the flagstone for the paving. And they want like a 75% down payment to start it, because it's all custom cut. And I'm gonna talk to them with Mary and see if the town can't do some kind of a credit.
Are you using a quarry in Lyons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where everybody gets it from, so.
That's what we
We
got
went
ours.
directly, we went directly to them. And they're, it's expensive, and it's 3 inch, we're going all 3 inch thick. And we are gonna replace the sidewalk on Rose Street. Because it's little tiny pieces.
Yeah.
And with the concern about ADA, we really need to address that, so.
Do we have that piece typed with the ADA compliance? I know that's part of.
Yeah, we can, I mean, if you look at Library Park, I think that's a good example. That's what we're expecting it to come out like, be like Library Park, where everything is square cut.
But I mean, and I know this is your best guess, but with CDOT approving the engineering of the flagstone so that it is ADA and so that they're kicking in part of that money too.
Cindy had a discussion with them and she came away comfortable. I was not on that discussion, because she told me that it was, they seem to be, they understand and we're comfortable with it, so. Now, we have ADA compliant concrete sidewalk from the road up to the restrooms. So, I mean, that's a wheelchair path that everybody does.
Yeah,
It'll be as good as everywhere else in town, so. Yeah.
That is a glowing recommendation.
The main sidewalks with the big slabs are not bad. It's when you get into the other areas where there's trees and there are little pieces and stuff like that. And the 3-inch, that's why we upped it from 2-inch to 3-inch, so that added about a third to the price. They're a lot heavier and they're not gonna be, and we're putting down a 6-inch base of road base. And the only area in the park that's got potential for roots is where the tree is, and that's gonna be grass. Most of it anyway, will be grassed area, so I think we should have a pretty good shot at getting it in pretty well. And it looks like it'll probably be Lunsford that does it, and then they do that kind of stuff.
Is there gonna be irrigation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're planning to get the irrigation in. The plan is to get the park ready so that we get concrete curbs going in for around the planting areas, get the irrigation system in, get the grass, hopefully get the grass in this year. And then the key is coming up with the money to get the flagstone on order because of the wrinkle with the grant and not being able to spend money and all that, so we need to figure that out.
Well, it sounds like you've made some good progress. Thanks for the update. Anything else for us? Any other questions?
I just have one other question, and I don't know, Bob, if this is addressed, and it's minor in the scheme of things, but something that BPC should consider, if not parks. Is there, or was there a plan for some type of place on the Strauss Park wall for us to put advertising, whatever, for town events, upcoming town events, the big frame, and so when people are here downtown, walking around, oh, look what's going on today, or look what's going on tomorrow, if they're saying, is there,
The walls there, they're
or wherever in Strauss Park.
I mean, they're all flat, on the
Yeah.
interior of the booth, so that the stuff that is somewhat weather protected, they're flat. There's nothing preventing us from putting anything on there.
I was just thinking on the 6th Street side, like on the outside of the wall, that first booth, that faces
We could get some kind of a,
glassed in frame,
Yeah. something like what we have here.
but larger so that we can.
Yeah, let me look into what that will cost, but to me, that's a signage issue that we can certainly do.
Because we don't have anything in the heart of our downtown district that, we talk about it and now it's, so.
And there's no reason why we can't put that up right now.
Right,
Yeah.
I mean, we're done enough with the walls.
We have a budget of donated funds from
511.
511 to do the storyboards and the history stuff, and I don't know where that stands. I know there's a substantial amount of money there to move that forward. I'll talk to Ron and to Cindy and see if anybody's, I'm not aware that anybody's working on that, but I mean,
I wouldn't mind having a part of the interpretation.
yeah, I mean, the place is there. I mean, we're all set up in the passageway. That was the intent
Right.
there. And then if we need to add some, spotlighting in there to light it up at night, we can do that easily enough.
I would go with the UV plexi. Don't put glass in there because it'll get broke.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But let me look into getting maybe, one probably would be the best on that side, and then eventually we'll probably put something on the parking lot side and get to that.
Yeah, thank you.
We have that old Christmas market sign that's up at that was on the end of the building, that it's in storage. We could bring that down and throw that back up on the, be nice if we get someone to kind of,
Clean it up.
yeah, like we paint it. It's a bit weather warm, but I mean, it's nice. Find some local artists. We probably have one of those in town somewhere. Okay, I'll look into that, and I'll look into getting that sign back down too, so we can put something up there to draw people's attention to what's in the park.
All right, marketing and events coordinator, an update please, Miss Jess Edwards.
Alrighty, howdy guys. It's officially been over a month since I've started, but I kind of did a month recap leading into 4th of July. Going over our social media strategy, marketing practices, completed events of Georgetown Days, upcoming events of the 4th of July, and then other advertising opportunities and way to got my name out there, whether it was me visiting our businesses, getting to know our community, or going outside of just Georgetown, or working with Amy Tomlinson with the weekly register call. That article did come out to all over, so hopefully that'll help me make stronger connections throughout the valley. I've been working with local radio stations, news organizations, and podcasts. We did have one podcast that did go kind of viral, I guess. It was about Georgetown, and the overall consensus was that they actually won the overall podcast winning ranking. But going into that, the biggest thing that really came to it was the Westward. I did include the image that was used, but I have more, I'm connected with Allison and she was giving me more data on that. But not just the print ad, we also did zip code targeting with their digital ads and a newsletter. Other publications we're reaching out to are 5280 magazine, the Rooster, travel, best of guides, along with social media pushes. I've been seeing kind of a correlation with Euroway, for an example. They've been doing a big push with their tourism, and then I'm seeing a big push on that online as well with big Denver influencers, so that's something we can learn to capitalize on, but we also need to discuss budget for that. I have had content creators, whether they're family, photography, or dog oriented, or just outdoorsy people, they're interested in showcasing Georgetown, but you want to make sure that we have something to give in return. Most recently is I had somebody at Tabletop Mountain, and they actually sent me pictures to help me out before we actually have a formal agreement of a Instagram takeover or something for our social media. So I think that's really nice to have a community helping you. Going into more of our social media insights, as we know, our Instagram was hacked, so we are currently, as of this morning, I believe at 402 followers. So we definitely have a bigger increase than what's going to be in these numbers, but we're also seeing the engagement portion of that increase too. So it's not just, oh, we have 400 followers, those people are interacting with us on Instagram, we're seeing a reach as big as 2,000. So eventually those people aren't just be following us, we're gonna have the follow-up things to do over the weekend, which is part of our social media marketing strategy. I believe some people have started to see things come out with the Mine that just came through. I have Hotel de Paris reels coming out, and it's kind of a spoon-fed itinerary. So things to do in Georgetown, ways to learn in Georgetown, where to work in Georgetown, ways that people who aren't in our community can also get involved, but that's not to say that people in our community are going to be involved, and that's where you're going to see more on Facebook. Our Facebook insights are typically stronger for Denver, but the following behind that is Georgetown. So we're keeping people in our community also in mind while we're doing our social media strategy, because a lot of people in our community do look to our Facebook for event information, what's going on with traffic closures. So I don't want to take that away and change it to, oh, we're only hitting tourism on the head here. We want to make sure everyone in our community is included. That being said, with both of our platforms, our biggest demographics are about 18 to 30 and mostly female. So I'm trying to figure out where are we missing and how can we get those. So those are just our areas of opportunity. Following into our conclusion is just I've dove in, I've looked at our numbers, I'm working on our website still, and I'm still making connections in our community. There is a tracker that I have along with 2 calendars, one's an event calendar and the one's a marketing calendar. That way we can stay on top of both of them. And then there's also a social media strategy where you can see the reels I've created, the pictures, the content, the hashtags, and we're trying to get more and more dynamic with our hashtags. With the recent change, we were able to see an uptick in viewership. So it's more getting fun and dynamic. Ways to improve for me, I've noticed, is I've been relying too heavily on our Facebook scheduler, and that failed a little bit, so I want to make sure that I need to have everything in line. We had a couple events not run by Georgetown, but I want to make sure that if there are things that I need to be aware of just for better improvement overall, I connect with those people, along with hearing more from our community members. One big thing with my outreach was talking about our signs on I-70. That's going to be grants, that's going to be a lot of work, but I want to make sure that people are being heard since there is a lot of stake into their businesses. So I don't mind having tough conversations and putting in the hard work, but that's kind of what I have for right now.
Any questions for Jess about that? Okay,
I'm sorry,
yeah, go for it.
did you by any chance try to look at CPR postcards? Because I don't know as if that's paid. I think you just like give them some information facts about your town. I think for like a municipality, that could be.
Yeah, so I'll take a look into
It's a
that.
Colorado postcard on CPR.
I did have one brochure company reach out to us, talking about how trains and historic towns are having a bigger research right now, but the cost of that is a little high, and I don't want to just be another flyer in a visitor center. I want to make sure that we're standing out, but I'll take a look into that one, because if it's free, you know, that's a budget I like.
Yeah, it might be. And then to be clear, it's like they call it Colorado postcard, but it's just like radio. It's like little factoids on the radio.
Oh, even
Yeah.
better.
So they'll just do like a 1 or 2 minute little factoid about Georgetown.
I was told that we used to have like a better, stronger relationship with the radio, and they did little blurbs here and there before that are more local, but I definitely will take a look at that as well.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, how about 4th of July recap? Jess, again.
We had some rain, but that did not rain on a parade. I believe that we were stronger communication with having a police radio with one of our volunteers. We were able to get a little bit more help, which I do believe helped us out towards the end of the event. Overall, I think it was successful, though. Looking into the scavenger hunt, Durango did an in-person all weekend long, and that might be a better option for us just with our budget and going into how many people are gonna know the history of our town. You know, being the person who did the research was like, this is so cool to learn, but you wanna make sure it's easier to digest. So I do wanna look to that. And then our bucket brigade, with the lack of volunteers and the weather, did get canceled. But at the same time, the Guanella Pass hot dog eating contest was very popular. So we still had a lot of events. People were here at least until 2:30. I remember hanging around downtown, especially after the Jeffco band wrapped up, and we were still low popping.
All right, any other observations? I think everybody was there.
Did,
Amanda has some.
yeah, do you have them handy, or do you want me to pull them up?
I could pull one.
Just so that they're
On the record.
in the record.
So Amanda was saying police radios were imperative, signage up a week prior to inform the road closures. It had a lot of delays. Specifically, there was a vendor delivering in the middle of our parade route, so it did create a little bit of a 5-minute conundrum. Jess, you rocked. That was not me. And then thanks to all of our volunteers who helped make this happen. We were sincerely appreciative of everyone who worked together to make this a success, and I also agree with that and echo that. I think it was even more, safety oriented, that we were all on t-shirts, and we were all able to coordinate with our walkie-talkies, so I think that definitely helped elevate, and we had no medical emergencies this year.
Yeah, good.
I don't know if you had anything to do with it, but the way that the Corvettes presented themselves in the parade route, there was a lot of positive feedback from the spectators and everybody that they just thought that was impressive. Maybe the fact that there weren't 100 of them either was helpful, but they were, came through 2 by 2 for those who were in the parade who couldn't see that. But it did, it made a nice presence, and I don't think any toes were rolled over, and, so, but it looked good without the line of never ending.
Yeah. I did try to limit everyone to, what did we say, less than 20? They told me 6 to 10, the Mercedes had 5, so I mean, they did come in 2s and 2s, and they were very kind, so.
Yeah, no,
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I wanted the 1950s fire truck to show up the next year.
I think that it would be wise to use, and I think you can wait on this, but for posters and everything else, we put a QR code to, for 20th century technology, we had a QR code to a landing page that has changing information, so if things get canceled, you can update that immediately, and so that we have wayfinding on there, because it's the only thing I ever noticed that we don't have, and it's an easy way for us to have a map up, and we don't have to print 1,000 things for people who don't have that. And since most of the population have smartphones now, we can utilize that to happen.
I did see several out-of-town visitors carrying your yellow map around,
Yeah,
so,
those are the, 10%.
yeah, but, we can break them on that. I'm sure they have a phone in their pockets.
We can even put, if we have changing, because I want to do that map project eventually.
Yes.
That's a whole big thing. But if we could just send something to a landing page that does have some sort of a current event, like we do with Mountain Jams, it goes directly to our Eventbrite page, because that can change, your lineup can change any day, so that's why we don't print that stuff. But if we did that, then, a lot of people go, where's the bike brigade? It's in 6th Street, and it's right there at the corner, but they don't have to ask.
Right.
Also, it's canceled.
Okay,
It's just ran to a computer in the middle of the day when she was trying to catch her.
all right, any other comments?
Sorry, I have a few actually.
Go for it.
How was the, having road closures so people couldn't get in and out of Winella Pass? How did that go?
I believe that went pretty smoothly. I was following up at the end with Amanda, and then an officer from Empire were making them smooth, for my understanding. I didn't hear any complaints, but that doesn't mean there were any. And then as far as other road closures in town, we just played it by ear. So once people were filled up with parking, we did staging and stuff like that. But
I would propose maybe considering next year, looking at the parade route, just so people can access. I feel like if tourism is one of our biggest draws and access to Winella Pass, having one road available to and from the entry to town to Winella Pass would be worth looking at.
I would love to look at that, and I think that Argentine directly up to 2nd Street is the most direct route, and that we should make that happen, and that we should advertise that fully.
As somebody that lives there, I hate that, but I totally get it.
We love Rose Street Green stuff.
Yeah. But so I think it would be worth looking at next year. We stopped by a yard sale and learned that there used to be yard sales on the 4th of July. Would that be something we could look into, bringing the yard sale instead of having it a few weeks prior, bringing it back to the 4th of July? Or is that?
I think that might be tough because some people go out of town if they're not wanting to do the work, and then with traffic, it could be iffy. Because I was seeing that as well, and I did like the idea, but then once traffic started to really bunch up, it made it a little bit more difficult. But I'm not going to close off my mind though.
Yeah, no. Well, I wanted to see what everybody else thought about that. And then if there was, can we do float competitions? We were watching like 2 of the floats go by, and like the competitor and me was like, oh, we can do a Clear Creek Littles one, have all the cute kids and win.
There is a parade competition.
Is there? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah, it's not really, was it this year?
The other part of it too is I couldn't really advertise it because I was the judge. So when I was going by, I didn't want people to know who was in charge. But yeah, no, I think advertising that a little bit stronger might do something. It's just, when we started having events being canceled, I started putting in more for the competition, just so Jeff Cobain could have more of a break, but then apparently their mic went out, so.
Okay, well, good to know. And also, like, you started like 3 weeks before.
No,
4th of July,
absolutely.
so, yeah. Okay, cool.
Great goals for next year.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, and the last one I thought of is in the dog park, we're not using the dog park for a beer garden. You bring your white t-shirt, you bring a water gun, you put some like tie-dye color in the water for the water gun, and then you have water gun wars where, you know, the team that wins is the team with the most colors on the other shirt. It's hot in July, I thought that'd be fun.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, that was it, thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so, wayfinding and signage. So I'm just gonna pass my computer screen around, if we can just pass it through the room. There we go. So this is two versions after I shared feedback from our last meeting for the entrance sign. Yeah, if you would just pass it through, that would be great. And so, I've been on the phone and through email with Paul, the owner of House of Signs, and also his design team. And so this is what they came up with to try to address our concerns. So I just want to find out if we're on the right track. The other thing I want to mention is they are about to get into a big project. I think they're doing a town-wide signage project for another small town in Colorado. And so he said that the sooner we make a decision and get into production, the better, otherwise there will be delays because of their capacity. So just wanted to share that.
Jacob, get it set up in another truck. 61 copies, no problem. I have 1,000 on board.
Okay, feedback, comments, reactions?
My question is, where is the funding coming out of something that we've allocated in BPC? And remember, we talked about, we need to sit down and have a work session as far as our budget goes. I can understand their timeline or their other jobs, but I'd want to make sure that we're solid on where that
Sure.
funding piece is coming from.
I completely agree, and we should do that. The purpose of the artwork today is just the design component. Once we settle on the design, then they can give us a price. And so we're sort of at that point.
Do we have a ballpark from them yet? And
We
do,
did
and just
initially, I
remind
don't
me?
have it, let me see if I can pull it up. Yeah, I really have to pull it up. I'm not-
Oh, that's okay, that's all
But
right.
yeah, when we first started talking, we had ballpark figures.
Yeah.
And then we came up with, Group A, Group B, Group C.
Mhm.
And so in Group A, we have the round figures. So, although the scope of work expanded on this because we were going to just remove
Right,
photo picture, now it's the whole thing.
the whole review.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So they'll have to rework the number, but I would say it's higher than what we were looking at.
Can I ask some questions?
Yeah, go
Just
for it.
because I'm just curious, since Jess is really the newest person, but looking at it from a different lens, because, I've not been here that long. I like definitely the white. I think it stands out the most. You can see it. But I guess I'm a little just curious. So I'm thinking out of the box, so please don't be offended by anything I say. I just want to say that, because I know I can trigger easily. The thing that I hear more than anything from locals is they don't know where the downtown is. And, even the sign still doesn't help me where the downtown is. It does tell me that there's Eat, Shop, and Sleep, all of Argentine. However, it still doesn't scratch that itch of the downtown businesses that I'm hearing. Event parking, I know that's important, because we're trying to clean that spot up so that people would know, so I think that's really important. But, like the train and museums, museums, I understand you have a museum, however, that's not the biggest draw. It seems like it should be downtown historic shops Because then you can put that, and that's like, that's where you're downtown. That seems to be the bigger draw as opposed to museums.
So historic downtown district should be.
Yeah.
Should be labeled and
Yeah,
pointed.
like highlighted.
Yeah,
You know, the train is gonna be our biggest. Historic shops, you know, we want people to recognize that that's the historic shop areas, even though I think the confusion last time was historic Georgetown and HGI, and it's like, we're trying to separate from that, but, each shop sleep would be great, but if we can somehow designate the area to me that needs the most direction, which is our historic shops.
I agree with you. So this being the entrance sign, this is like the, if you will, flying over at 30,000 feet.
Yeah.
And so to direct them to that part of town, and then the smaller signs that are already out there that you encounter on the way, like at the 11th Street Bridge and at the fork in the road, going up to the train, those say Train and Museum, so you're getting into a finer aggregate as you go in.
Yeah.
So I think that makes sense.
Historic downtown.
I like historic downtown. I don't think you need district.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Great suggestion.
Okay. And then this is just trying to, I'm just asking, not necessarily questioning, but just the whole county offices. Why would we highlight county and not town? You know, because most people, I mean, you look at for both, although I've never seen in any other town when we go and visit where it says county offices or town offices.
I had a question about that too. So I was not involved when they did this, and so it seems, even from the way it's designed, how it's hanging underneath, it looks like almost an afterthought. I'm just reading into it, but it doesn't look like it was part of the original design to me. And I don't know why the town would have to do that for the county, you know, unless it was just a collegial thing, I'll just help you out. But the other thing that I see is, if I were new to Georgetown and I saw county offices pointing at the visitor center, I would think they were there.
Oh, it does look pretty formal.
It looks like they're pointing. Paul, do people come in and look for county offices? All the time, Steve. You've never told me that.
Well,
Because that's what it looks
completely
like.
offended by these questions. I don't know why it's there. My only feeling would be to look back at the archival records to make sure that it wasn't something that was required later, because it's on CDOT right away.
Yeah.
It's not on our line.
Okay.
And that's my only thing. People ask about the county anyway, and a lot of people here know where they're going there, but it doesn't help. I think it's completely unnecessary, and also for a business promotions commission, they have to put that out there unless they decide to go for something that's ridiculous.
Okay, fair enough. Can you find out if it's a requirement?
Sure.
And if it's not, do we want to have that
get
removed?
rid of it.
We can look back to the minutes, and I believe whatever years that Carrie Ann was police judge, I may be wrong,
Yes.
I think Craig said he was involved, but I believe that's when that happened, because of that flashing sign that's gonna happen.
Okay, we'll do the research on it.
Great, okay, this is what I need.
Would that spot, and not knowing the dimensions, could that be an area where we could put temporary banners for different events too, right underneath there?
So, this whole time I thought that our signs were designed for that, and I thought
Yeah.
the whole thing was designed, and it's not there. So the only banners go, I do see 285,000 people, so they go inside and on the wall. But I think that it should be made, it's a small banner space, and all we have to do is put eye hooks.
Right, but I mean,
And that was the intention, in the beginning, there are no eye hooks.
so if we get rid of the county offices,
Yeah.
and, but have that space where, and we know if it's a 2x4 banner or whatever type thing, I mean, it would be nice if it was the right size or how it's constructed so that it takes a standard size,
And somehow that came away from me, because for a while, I thought that we could put banners there, and then when I was trying to do it online, but it wasn't there. Maybe that's when county offices went there, because that's where they were supposed to get us, right underneath. So you'd see Georgetown and then see Town Jams,
Yeah.
of course.
Right, but yeah, I mean, and if it's so, and since it's in such a nice low spot too,
Yeah.
it can be easily switched out so Mountain Jams can go back up tomorrow if something
Get the whole
else,
thing.
yeah.
And also, if Road and Bridge can't do it, then we can always get John or one of us to go do it. It's low hanging fruit, so.
Okay, so question, clarification. Do we need to, are we just going to hang it on the existing sign, or do we need to have some sort of redesign of the posts?
What I would do is ask them what their materials are, and if we can add eye hooks to it, and honestly, we can just have somebody put the eye hooks in it, if the material is.
Or just tie it around the base.
We don't want something.
But even if they've got eye hooks, then we can at least use the zip
Yeah.
ties
Yeah,
with the
okay.
grommets on the banners to
That's
stick it up there. And it doesn't even,
These
it would look
designers-
nice. It would be less tacky.
Yeah, these designers are problem
Gross and all the
solvers.
nonsense now.
Scotch tape and poster board, I am so old for that, you know?
I'm gonna point out two other things here. The Guanella Pass Byway, so that's been updated. And, I put, House of Science in contact with the Highway and Byway Commission in order to make sure that it was, on brand for them, and they said yes. And so, they like the Columbine, they like the color, the name is right, so that's all good. And then to comment on the background color, I have them do it two different ways. The darker color is what's there now. And what I'll point out that I like about that is it's more integrated into the landscape because of the backdrop of the visitor center. It complements the color of the brick, but the other one, the light colored background, is supposed to be easier to read. And so, but it jumps out more. And so, just put some thought into that. You know, I think the darker is more elegant.
But we're putting it there for people to see.
That's what I meant.
So, yeah.
You're
So I would, yeah,
Pass it
no,
around.
and I do it, I like
Yeah, you
the
see how it
darker
blends with
color,
the brick.
but I think the white is more appropriate for what we're trying to.
Yeah, I do too, I like the further darker, but the
Yeah.
legibility
Yes,
is.
and we,
That's where I'm at, too. I like the dark from a design component. Yes, sir.
I like the white too, and I
Okay.
agree, it's a lot easier to read. A question I would have though is, I gather this is a wooden sign?
I don't think it's wood, I think it's.
I would just want to make sure that in terms of durability and getting beat up with digs and dents and dirt and everything else, that white
Oh,
could be an issue where the brown would absorb
got it.
that kind of thing. Or maybe we go with an off-white or something.
Well, it is off-white, it's cream and burgundy, and it's the same color combination as the smaller signs throughout town, like at the 11th Street Bridge.
Okay, well, that'd be good, if those signs
They've been up for
look
years,
good after several years.
Yeah.
so just, yeah.
That'd be great.
I really told him to stick with the same type, style, or font. Let's keep it consistent, and same with the colors. And so it's just, reverse. So, okay.
The other thing,
While you're,
oh, go ahead.
while you're talking signs, can we get some kind of a sign put up pointing to the restrooms in Strauss Park?
Can we?
We need to do that.
Yeah, I think we brought that
Yeah,
up last
People don't realize it.
Every meeting.
She's got the Parks and Rec about that. That's a great.
And, you could go buy something commercially, or you could have something nice made. I don't know what the town wants to do, but I think that's something.
I think the least expensive way to do it would be, I don't know who owns the telephone poles. There's a telephone pole down here on the corner of Rose and 6. But, a little sign that sticks off the telephone pole that just shows restrooms, maybe pointing down 6th Street and then up Rose Street. Be
There's a discussion about.
inexpensive and easy as long as we have jurisdiction over that pole. I think it's the town's pole. I don't think it has utilities on it. I think it's used for Christmas market for stringing lights. I think that's what the pole is. But again, have a better purpose by having signs.
That's a good
With
idea.
the signs with DRC too.
By the way, I did find out who has been destroying Strauss Park banner.
Oh,
So we're gonna have.
Destroying?
Yeah.
Oh, there's
Is
been
it solved?
What?
There's been.
No, it's not installed, I found out, and I will approach that person today.
I appreciate y'all getting on that.
So I put the word out with the local businesses. They've been putting dirt in the toilets and then trying to
Oh.
clog it with toilet
On a
paper.
daily basis.
And they were doing it like multiple times a day.
That's the nice
Oh,
version of
really?
it.
Oh, my God.
Like,
Because I've experienced some weird vandalism at the DC.
Well, it may be the same person. So, but I went and talked to all the businesses last week, not all of them, but a few of them, is like, who are not in the area, keep a watch. See who you recognize going in frequently, because we were cleaning it, they would come right back in and do it. We would clean it, like one day, 3 times in a row, we cleaned it and then they destroyed it.
within an
Oh my
hour.
God.
So it's actually a kid who's doing it, and other kids actually told on this person. So that's how we found out.
I'm thankful.
Will you find out if this
Ooh,
kid
we
also
had
has a
confidential
statue?
informants, they didn't tell on him, it was a CI that, okay, I like it.
This is
I like
good,
it.
yeah.
Confidential
Oh,
informants.
I know, that's why police drive.
There you go.
Yeah, and you know,
That makes me feel a little
Don't
better.
call
we're gonna just have a long talk, I'll probably bring Tim with me and basically try to do a scared straight kind of thing, but we're not gonna do a citation or anything like that, we're just gonna help this kid, from their waywardness, and maybe get them to be part of our team,
There you go.
Maybe they'd like to start pitching in with some community service.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, maybe some suggested volunteerism.
Yeah.
Voluntoldism.
We have lots of digging coming up. Lots of digging.
This happened, this situation happened like this in Augusta, and I did the same thing. We worked with them, and they ended up coming around, being amazing help.
It could be a future town administrator that's setting on the path.
Can you say what the age range of the kid is?
I don't know, I just think that middle school is kind of what I was, a younger
Well,
kid.
good.
A girl, actually, it was a girl.
Oh, wow.
I'm really glad you guys are solving that and taking care of it.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah, well-
that was going.
My only concern about, and I don't believe in, permanent punitive action. in this
Public
sort of
flogging.
things. Maybe that. However, we have to be very careful about equity in application of that, because it's very easy for some kids to receive that sort of treatment and other kids to have the book thrown at them. And DE and I think, and I want to make sure that it becomes, I want to say this publicly, I will go to the selectmen. I think that the town needs to have DE and I a training and sensitivity training about different issues. It's come to my attention more than once about some issues with that. And I don't know if we have an outright policy or not, but as somebody who is another, I think that it's something important that the town and all of its employees experience and take. And I feel very strongly about that with my stance here. Having said that, I love what you're looking at doing, but without that training, the application of that becomes uneven. And I would like to make sure that you are looking forward to making sure that you have a policy in place to make sure that that is applicated properly, so that one kid is not treated in that direction and another kid is treated more harshly. Thank you.
What's DB&I?
D and I.
Diversity,
Equity, and
Inclusion, and
Oh, DE
and
and-
accessibility, DEIA,
DEIA,
diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility.
okay.
And just even the fact that we just had a discussion about losing your grant because of accessibility.
Yeah,
really bothers me.
right, exactly, so it's something to be aware of.
Sorry.
And I will say, and I will toot the horn of the Hotel Paris Museum and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. I'm not paid by the National Trust, but I'm treated as an employee of the National Trust because I represent their brand. And I have been through DEIA training, and it is a wonderful eye-opener. And I think it is for the betterment of everyone. So there are people who have been trained in our community, and one of them, and I say we need to go for it.
I would suggest that when we find the funds for that as well, we include volunteer board members to also take that training.
I agree.
Yes, completely agree.
Can I go back to the sign for a second?
Yes,
Because
Oh, yeah.
Gary made a suggestion,
yes, go for it.
just in reference to your colors and the more elegant colors. Well, just to consider it, since we're discussing, so
Yeah.
I'll let
I
you.
would go with the colors that you had that you showed on the right side of that screen
The
picture.
darker colors.
Yeah, with the burgundies and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But just change the letters, make those like a cream color.
Or brighten the letters up.
Yeah, just brighten the letters up,
Okay.
just make it lighter, that'll be a lot more attractive sign that way.
Okay, so we have some people who like the light background, and then those people who do, what do you think about lightening up the letters? Let's pass it through the group again.
Can I ask?
We just need contrast.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
With snow and like the white weather, how would that affect the reading of it? You said there's similar signs around the area,
Yeah,
just more new.
Yeah,
It won't make a difference because I-70 will be closed down and no one will come to the
I'm
town.
gonna travel around our town.
yeah, it's.
But you know where it is.
It's pretty,
But I would also say, going back to our conversation on accessibility, there's probably guidelines existing about
okay,
accessibility for signage and legibility.
I think that's a great.
My particular visual impairment, it is easier to see a dark background with a white colored letter.
Yeah, Paul,
This would show the
Paul, you want to tell everybody about
white
your
background.
Not really.
But like he was
We
saying,
appreciate what
So-
the light background is on smaller signs as we come through town, so we do have,
No, if somebody
a
works with our
reference to
hearing
see
staff,
how
like,
through
you know, there's the other side of the
you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so-
We're good.
Did you lighten it up already, or you're just suggesting lighten it more? Okay.
Yeah, no, I haven't done it. So what I'm going to do is go back to the designer and just say, just tell them the facts. We want legibility, we're interested in access and accessibility for people with sight issues and the confused drivers. And so we're interested in lighter colors, whether that be the light background color or lightening the letters. And I think they'll have an opinion, again, the problem solvers. And so I'll just ask them to come up with something. Maybe there's an option that we haven't mentioned.
And then the sign hanging too.
And then, yes, I have all that.
And the historic.
Remove the county offices thing, if we're allowed to.
Yeah.
I'll lean on you for that answer. Historic downtown instead of train and museums, I think that's absolutely appropriate.
Well, or even, it could still be historic downtown, comma, trains and museums. I mean, we don't have to take away necessarily, you
Yeah,
know.
the more words, the
It's
smaller things
smaller,
get, yeah. And so, you know, as you go through to those intersections where the smaller ones are, that's where the detail starts to
Not really micro.
Yeah, micro, exactly.
I would say don't take train off if possible.
That is, it's a tough one.
Historic downtown and train.
For equity.
Well,
Well, then we need to approach the train and see if the train wants to potentially kick in for some additional advertising too. I mean, that's a possibility.
That is nice. Okay, all right, so we're getting there. I will remind everybody when we go back for redesigns, it costs money. So tell me everything now.
Because this was our 131, right?
Yes, yeah, tell me everything now, because.
I personally, I agree with those who said, I like the darker one. I feel like it does draw your eye, but if we could lighten it, I think that
Got it.
I would prefer that.
Okay, that would make me happy.
I know this is another aside,
Yeah, it's okay.
but on TrainNet, it is one of the busiest businesses.
Yeah.
It is the busiest next to me, or right with me.
Yeah.
And maybe if it's not on there, it would behoove us in all of our discussions about advertising, marketing, and wayfinding to work with them and include them and to tag on to what they're doing. The other thing is, when we go into the next phase of signage, it is vital, I think I've said this before, that we get people from the train into town. I think that's our biggest loss. And we're not taking good enough advantage of it. And if we can involve Mark and his team and Brian in discussions of how he thinks that we can do this, I think that it would benefit us greatly.
Okay, how about this, folks? Why don't I send Mark and Brian these images and just solicit some reaction from them?
Yeah.
Good, and I'll do that before I go back to House of Signs.
I agree with you. I think the train to me is
Puts us on the map.
it is, it's the reason why people come to Georgetown. And so to take that off is kind of like,
It's the only billboard I see in Denver.
Yes.
Directed about Georgetown.
Mark would have some great ideas too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I will take care of that.
Let's not forget our marketing coordinator is our voice and our, to reach out and have those, to make that contact on behalf of us.
Do you want it? I'll send you the,
Please,
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
trying to get in contact with the train and they are really difficult unless I just show up.
okay, all
Show
right.
up.
There it is. There it is.
So yes, you're gonna contact the train with these images then?
Absolutely.
If you want to think of an excuse to piggyback with me on an email, I get responses.
Okay.
Do you know Dee Newton?
Mr. Hamilton, yes.
You know, something has occurred to me, I started looking like at the Energy Museum and stuff, and it occurred to me that my sense of the way Georgetown is marketed is the train and other, like your museum and the Hamel House, like individually. And, you know, I grew up on the East Coast and we always heard about Williamsburg, Colonial Williamsburg is like, you know, it's this whole package thing. If you ever made plans to go to Colonial Williamsburg, you were gonna spend, you know, a few nights there, or at least one night there anyway, in the area to see it. Have we ever thought about the fact that we have, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 museums right here in town, and marketing the town as an entity? That, hey, come to Georgetown and spend a couple days with us.
That goes back to the comment I made last month, where we need to get out of this survival mentality and get into a thriving mentality. And it's just been every person for him or herself.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a group of diverse stakeholders for sure, you know, Colonial Days and the National Trust and then Excel and the Energy Museum and HGI and Hamel House and, you know, the old school and the visitor center. It's complicated, but I hear what you're saying.
This is, in one home I live here,
And I
and
think
get to
you're
know
right.
things. This is truly an awesome place.
Yeah.
We
it's
have
the
so much
place.
here
Yeah.
that, you know, you just don't think about it, that, you know, we're more than this and that and that and that. Collectively, we're the Williamsburg of the West.
Yeah.
Well,
There's just so much here.
And I would like to piggyback off of that by saying too, there's that for the history lovers and then the outdoor lovers, and that's a whole other subset
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge with our lake and rock climbing and hiking, ATV, and then I do want to piggyback off of something you said that I was gonna save till my time, so maybe I'll do that.
Okay, we probably should move on anyway. I just want to, tell you one phrase that might be helpful when you're thinking about marketing. It's a phrase out of preservation world, spirit of place, spirit of place. So just think about spirit of place. Okay?
I would like to respond.
Yeah.
Colonial Williamsburg is a corporation. CW is a corporation. So what they did is they built that. I know we family there spend a lot of time in the city. We spend a lot of time in the city. So while that's a really great thing for a living history museum, it itself is a living history museum with a separate museum on the side and then a small, owned by the corporation town where they have the farmers market every Saturday and Sunday and those things. So that's where we run into our challenge with it. What we are working on is something that my company's been working on now that Jess is here, and something that I've already hit her about, is we are working on figuring out package deals. Let's talk to the train, not package deals that necessarily is itineraries, trying to get groups up here. Different, from my perspective, I wanted to get like small convention breakouts, but to get groups that are sizable, small enough size that we can handle it in town and to bring them up in that direction. So to go into what you're talking about, and a way that we can do it is to get everybody into a coalition to try to make that happen rather than trying to, it's easier, it's like wrangling cats rather than doing something like the CW puts together and makes it happen. Because the town of Williamsburg is completely different. Have you ever spent time in the town, because it's mostly country clubs?
Okay.
But, just
Yeah, super.
to note really quickly, like those are my three big ones, is history, outdoors people, and then pet lovers. There's a lot to do with your animal here. So whether it's getting them to just stay for the day, Mountain Mamas does take away lunches. We can pair that with the train and then say, get an ice cream downtown after. There's a lot of ways that we can build itineraries to spoon feed people, but making sure it's not just in the online realm, trying to make sure it goes into print, it goes into radio, and making sure that's blanketed, that's a big part of my next goal. Now that we're done with some of these holidays before holidays.
Darn holidays, they keep getting away.
I know, it's like I'm marketing and events.
It's dog days and everything.
It's gonna be August 12th, other people have started advertising for it, so.
I saw that, but you don't have any. None of the components that are being advertised, I'm not doing a cantina. I might do a beer garden at the park, but I'm not doing a DJ.
Well, as you saw, I just met Justin yesterday, so. We'll get on that and figure it out, but yes, I did say that there was some advertising, and then as far as permitting, I wanna make sure, since it is about over a month, but I don't wanna get too close.
Can't close. Just like.
Okay, on to discussion on creating a workforce support commission aligned with lodging tax implementation. Who's gonna take that on?
Well,
Mary?
that was something that I had, you know, brought to this commission several months back. And not to pass the buck, but I know Craig was going to put something together. I don't believe, obviously, he's not here right now. I'd suggest tabling it, but I would like to just make a quick comment, and Jessica, you might want to piggyback on this. Again, we have so many things going on throughout the county, but what we want to be able to focus on in Georgetown, and I know one of them is, you know, the early child care issues. And to me, that's why this commission, if we suggest creating it, or maybe we need to just take it outside of the commission and, you know, push it to the board in the town, we need to decide how we're going to monitor and dispense that part of the funding that we're getting. That was what we promised our voters, and so, and we can't keep kicking the can down them. So, but again, if Craig has put some legwork into, you know, putting something together a little bit more formally, I would like him to be able to at least present that, and then we can move from there. But we can't, we keep putting it on here and we're not doing anything, so.
And my question is, what does it need from us, aside from, I guess, is what Craig's putting together, like a structure of how it will work and what funds and stuff?
My initial suggestion was, because the funding is part of the lodging tax, and that funding kind of gets funneled through our particular budget piece, that wouldn't we, BPC, want to work somewhat hand in hand with, if it is a new commission, maybe another representative from this commission is sitting on that commission, like I sit on here as a rep from Board of Selectmen. You know, do we just want a partnership? Do we want to have any suggestions on it, or do we just want to turn it over to the town and the board and say, how do you see these funds being dispensed, you know? But I see that collaboration with business promotions. Maybe nobody else does, but I just wanted to get ahead of it, since we're going to be seeing substantial funds over the years. And who's going to review any requests if someone comes and says, oh, well, you know, we could use X amount of dollars for workforce housing? Is that just going to be up to the town administrator and the Board of Selectmen? Or do we want the voice of the community saying, no, wait, we're workforce, we are workforce housing, we are childcare, we are the infrastructure. So that was kind of my passion behind that. So, because it is, right now it's all like, oh, what is it?
Well, it's just going into a pot.
Yeah.
And then we're like, to be determined.
Yeah. So, you know, it's gonna be like parks, it's gonna be like, you know, DRC, it's gonna be like BPC, whoever, so.
Go ahead.
You're sure? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, a concern I have is bandwidth of this group, because obviously we have lots of work to do to fulfill our mission. Mission statement that I read at the beginning, and so I do think there has to be a representative. We should choose a person, somebody self-elect to be that representative, but I think this is a whole nother focus, and I'm not sure we can give it a fair amount of energy and attention. when we are working so hard to help the business community and the visitor already, and we're sometimes successful and other times we fail. And so until we are more solid with our performance in this group, adding another task concerns me.
I'm happy to be a representative liaison. My business itself it has affordable housing, and I think that would be important that you have somebody involved in that.
But remember, we don't have that commission formed yet, so that's the initial question is, do we want to does Business Promotions want to recommend that commission and maybe some basic parameters that we would be concerned for, so that then the town and the board can act upon that and put it into code and to create that commission far before anyone's raising their hand saying, ooh, pick me to be on
I'm
that
not saying
commission.
you, what I'm saying is I'm open to doing that.
So I agree, because it seems like who's responsible for the lift of getting this started? Because if it's us, I don't know if that's necessary. I think that we should maybe say it's up to the Workforce Support Commission to outline their mission statement to later be approved by the Board of Selectmen. And I would request that Workforce Support Commission include an aspect of childcare. And then aside from that, I think we could just take it to the board and the town admin to say, yes, this is created, and then have the board itself work to create what their parameters are, and then have that approved by the Board of Selectmen, and then it just gets it on its way. It might still be a few months as all that gets worked out, but then it's still at least on its way. Because I've been talking to people about this, I don't know if I was supposed to, but I've mentioned it to a couple of people who are genuinely very excited, and those are people that don't already serve on boards, who are interested in jumping into this stuff.
Yeah, we want subject matter experts, just like this group. You know, you're staked in these things, and so you want that on that. I don't know if you have to necessarily spell out childcare, because it's already part of it.
Great.
That's what, you know, when we took it to the people, the language included that.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, so, you know, this whole work support commission could, in the mission statement, could say exactly childcare, you know, housing and related things. But as long as it aligns with the language that it was approved. We can't add anything else, because then we'd have to take it back to the people. But yeah, I agree, whether it be one person here, but then we want to make sure we get people who really care and have capacity for that too.
I would say let's just clear it off our plate and kick it to the Board of Selectmen to get it going. If that's what it is.
And that's fine. Again, it's, you know, I guess with the thought, do you feel that BPC would like to have a person sitting on that commission for some, you know, some sharing of information?
It's either that or the other commission report to us regularly. And, you know, if we're the funder, let's just put it in these terms, if we're the funder, there has to be some accountability. So there has to be some reporting back and make sure that it's fulfilling our goals. And those goals are what was in the law that was passed.
I agree with Mary. I move that we recommend that when this commission is formed, a member liaison from this commission be added to the new commission.
Okay, there was a motion.
Someone else seconded, because I feel uncomfortable seconding things that come back to my board.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, no, that makes sense.
From four of us.
I'll second it.
Sorry.
You can change the language. Here's the deal. This thing is coming from money that was initially designed for tourism marketing in the state of Colorado. They did this in 1992. But here's our ballot measure, since we took away that money and we want to make sure something went to tourism. Without raising taxes, shall Clear Creek County be authorized to use a minimum of 60% of the revenue from the existing lodging tax to support housing and childcare for the tourism-related workforce, including seasonal workers and other workers in the community for all other purposes permitted by law, with up to a minimum of 40% of lodging tax revenue continuing to be used for advertising and marketing of local tourism.
But that's the county, that's not our ballot, sorry. Our ballot measure.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry,
But no, but
that's
that-
right, you're trying not to do that.
But that's good background.
So that means 20%.
No, 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 so don't.
No, because they didn't do that, we were trying to.
That
get
was the county,
60%.
that was the county
We didn't
I'm
measure.
trying to find it, do you have the language? Do you have the language, Jess?
I've got,
Sorry,
I've
screwed up,
got,
so bring it in.
no, no one's on Zoom anyway.
Anyways, tourism, my feeling is, the reason I'm saying what I'm saying, without the ordinance in front of me, this is it.
Paul, can you just like repeat your motion now real quick?
I move that when the town of Georgetown creates a new, use the language on the
Workforce Support Commission.
Workforce Commission, that a liaison member of the Business Promotions Commission be appointed as part of it.
Thank you, that clarification, my second motion.
Okay.
Sorry, maybe it's your second.
It's okay.
But it's not, ours is limited.
Okay,
That's great.
all right, so it's been,
Sorry.
proposed, it's been seconded. Discussion, more. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, there we go, okay. A little bit of progress.
No, I think
That's
that's
the
great.
most progress
Well,
we've had.
Yeah, exactly, so.
Wow.
Paul, would you read that first with your radio voice?
Here it is.
That's okay. Is that on the wall of your office?
I forgot.
I keep it so that I can bring it out when I need it.
Percentages and things there.
Good idea.
You're like a Wheel of Fortune girl.
It's $2A. Shall town of Georgetown taxes be increased $225,000 in the first fiscal year, and by whatever additional amounts are raised annually in each subsequent year through a 2% town sales tax on lodging services commencing on January 1st, 2023. The revenues from such tax to be used solely for the support of activities of the town's Business Promotions Commission, organization, promotion, marketing, managing public events, activities in support of business recruitment, management, development, coordinating tourism, promotion activities, housing and childcare for the tourism-related workforce, including seasonal workers and other workers in the community, facilitating and enhancing visitor experiences, including extending seasonal maintenance and use of Guanella Pass Scenic Byway, capital expenditures for housing and childcare for tourism-related workforce, including seasonal workers and other workers in the community. That's for the other workers in the community. And capital expenditures related to facilitating and enhancing visitor experiences, and shall all revenues generating from the sales tax authorized hereby and from any earnings from the investment of such revenues constitute a voter-approved revenue change and exception to the revenue and spending limits of Article X, Section 20 of the Colorado Constitution. I have too much of a sibilant S to ever have a rating voice.
Here,
So
here.
there's no percentages in there, right?
No percentage.
No, there's-
It was less restricting that way.
Cool.
And that was, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Great job.
Thank you, I appreciate that because I read it.
Okay.
Please go.
Next.
Outline of annual analysis and proposed scavenger hunt. Ms. Trivett, you're on.
Well, and then I'm gonna kick this over to Jess, also the scavenger hunt, but first I just wanted to talk about, so the annual analysis, has not gotten started yet. I did email Mary and Jess, because Jess also has a background in analytics and would prefer work with promotions, collecting this. So mostly our first meeting will be figuring out what data we already have and what data we want to collect. The brainstorm that I had so far was just seeing how many, getting a list of all of our businesses, how long they've been running and what's vacant, what's for rent. Getting an idea of like duration of business and also employee turnover will be good numbers to collect. And it doesn't seem like we get any more information with revenue beyond the tax report, is that correct? This I'll check with Mary with, but I just wanted to see if you guys had any information.
I don't know of any place where I can look at that data. I mean, I know like the nonprofits, you can look at their 990s in terms of it's a couple years old.
Okay. Thank you. And then, so I just wanted to tell you all that in case any of you had suggestions on good data that I didn't mention or think of that we might want to look at.
Berkeley County Economic Development Mass and that data.
I'll reach out with Lindsay, I think.
Crazy, yeah, she's great. And then, So like the train, you're gonna wanna look at History of Colorado's 990 or their published books because they're state.
Okay,
And so they'll publish the train's revenues because they're a concessionaire and they work on percentages.
great. Well, and it seems like too, in general, we'll wanna, we'll collect all the data, but when we do kind of reports, block out like, what are the big tourism draws versus like what are our local, did that make sense? So anyway, that's still in the works. And it will be a while, because it just takes, once we even establish what data we want to collect, then the collecting of that data. But Jess and Mary and I should be meeting shortly. As to the scavenger hunt, I'll let Jess talk about 4th of July, and then I want to bounce back to talk about the general idea of it, and then a few other things that I added to the agenda for myself, if that's okay.
Yeah, so for our 4th of July, it just became too much of an expense for us, especially if we didn't know who all was gonna turn out, and that was with our app development. I was looking at Durango, they did a 4th of July scavenger hunt for the entire weekend, and they had little signs that they put up in their store. I can pull it up right now. But they had really strong information. So one of their clues was like unique features, copper ceiling, purgatory signs, and a DSNGR train. Choose your shirt, have it embroidered in the store, and then look at the store off in the back for the next clue. And they had up to 10 different spots. Anyone who, I emailed out to our business newsletter, anyone who responded and wanted to be a part of it were able to. And we did get some responses to be a participant and to donate something to win. But I think having something overall for the town would be, a little bit more inviting for people to come in town. It's just the other part of it is what do they win? What do we have in our budget? What's the goal to get people? What's enticing?
So then back to, overall, the initial kind of idea behind the scavenger hunt is it'd be also good to use language called a passport, because I think that that's the other thing that I was kind of thinking. So basically, what we would do is we would eventually pay for an app, because it would just be a year-round running thing, that if you're stuck in traffic at the tourist center, then there's a thing that says, wait 30 minutes for traffic to dissipate and take this walking tour. So it could be a historic homes tour, and it's just, again, like a passport where you take a picture of yourself in front of the historic home. Or it could be like a return weekend where did you hike all the trails in Georgetown? Did you do something on the lake? So a scavenger hunt for one thing, great, and then passports of activities for other things, so then it becomes this recurring visitation. And then for prizes, it could always be that $10 thing at one of our local restaurants, a $10 credit, or not restaurants, any shop. And then we could also start printing little stickers of I Georgetown passport outside, completed. Or Georgetown Historic Homes, completed. And just little stickers that you put on your water bottle that are free. So I could flesh that out more if you guys are interested, but I was just kind of thinking it would just be kind of a low bar to engage people that stop at the visitor center, want to walk around a little bit, but enjoy some kind of guided educational tours. It doesn't always have to be a clue. It could just be directing you to the thing. And then it could also be a clue or a scavenger hunt if you wanted to play that way. But we need to look at apps if we're interested in that and see how many of these things you can set up on that app per an annual cost.
For a fairly new audience for us are the people who have electric cars, who are, waiting for their battery to charge. They're right there.
That's a great point.
Yeah, and, they can just go across the bridge to the Alpine and, have a pizza and a beer while they wait, but downtown is so close too, just a few blocks from there.
This is exactly my geofencing idea that I was talking to you about, and so I was gonna wait until you were involved.
Well,
We can get several groups involved. We need to do a geofencing map that has the same, geofencing is when it's exactly what you're talking about in the app, and it's a cost per year, it's a setup cost. And what we can do is a wayfinding map that has it. You walk by the Bowman White House, and we can get the historic groups, so we can get them to get the money. It's better than doing a bag. You walk by the Bowman White House and it says, this is Bowman White, and it pulls up that you're here. And as you're walking to town, they can pull up and say, Cooper's on the, or it can pull up and say 511 is having a special. You go near the lake, there's a brand new paddleboarding place, and so what you can do is you can get the people that are not necessarily in the upfront cost marketing of it to give you money for what they pay for that extra call out as it walks through. And it's used, I started looking at it a couple years ago, it was very expensive, but it's been used now at a bunch of amusement parks and places like ECW might be doing it. So the technology's become far more approachable. It's just, it's a bigger, it's what you want to do. It's just a little bit more of a loop right now to include, to make a larger set. So maybe do it in stages like you're talking about. It'd be great, because when you say passport test, we're like, we just spent $6,000.
Yeah.
But I know exactly what you're doing. I think it's great, and I think that you can involve us with that. That is something that I would get Julian on with you to work, so we can work with.
So maybe we start a working group.
Yeah, let's
And
do
I
that.
would say the juice would be worth more the squeeze with Paul's idea, just to give you an idea, it's roughly $850 a month.
Mhm.
And about 10 grand annually for the better of the apps that I've been looking through. They are willing to work with you, especially being a town, you can probably work some nonprofit angles, but it's a hefty, and then you have to look into how many accounts can you use. So for some of them, it was gonna be like $400 for 8 users for a one-time use, or $700 for 20. And it's, I don't wanna spend that much money if we're not gonna get 20, but if we have more than 20, then we're disappointing people some way.
I just wish I knew it was like app coding.
Let me point out that,
We're all
okay,
same.
I don't know.
we're July,
Yeah.
and by early September, we need to be presenting a budget to the town to consider for 2024. So you are in the window to put this together so that we can budget this if it's coming out of BPC funding for next year. And realistically, with the figures that you're throwing out, I mean, I may be wrong, but I don't see that coming out of, something that we've already, got in our budget this year, because we also have perhaps other priorities.
Yep.
So, but push comes to shove within the next 6 weeks, so that we can put that budget together and present it to the board, which won't be voted on until November.
I would like to propose the creation of a working group for either geocaching or scavenger hunt to create like a year-round engagement tool for tourists at the visitor center or the charging station.
While we're on the topic of budget, and it's not necessarily in regard to this, how would I look into budgeting for like those content creators or like certain marketing plays? I'm sure there's a board or two that I have to go through that I wanna make sure I can check off those boxes.
Essence plan.
So what you're putting together and what your needs are gonna be for next year, you need to make sure that that's shared with this commission, because we're the ones who are creating the budget to support our goals that are implemented by you.
Yeah.
So, 6 weeks.
Jeez. I'm trying not to work this week so much, but I would love to talk about it, because I do think that there are other financial components to this, and it's not us on our own, and it will not work if it's not a collaborative effort.
Working group then, do we need to vote on it, or is that just, can I say it in the
Kevin?
I'll second your motion to
Yeah, let's
put
do it.
together
Yeah.
a little ad hoc committee for that.
Can we hear the motion again, please?
Rewind, woo.
Yeah, I make a motion to create a working group, to look into the creation of geofencing or scavenger hunt, to create a year-round tourist attraction for those at the visitor center or charging station.
And those are apps.
I don't know, Gino, but it's.
We'll figure it out, but yes, it's all out,
Okay, and
it's all out.
Okay, that's fine.
Or we'll let them.
Well, Mary did it.
Sure.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, good work, Jessica.
Well, thank you, so sorry, I had just a few more questions.
Yeah, go for it.
What used to be Columbine Corner, is that somebody's office now? Is that, it seems like we're trending in the wrong direction with that. Is there, what's the deal?
Abrahamson's, I think, set up their office there, and they own that.
Okay, so there's nothing to do about it, it's just an office of the first shop when you drive into town?
it's private, yeah, it's just a privately owned business, and that's how they're utilizing it
You
right
have
now.
control over hours, what they
You don't
charge
like
for
the yellow
businesses,
chairs?
what they charge for rent, if they close, if they don't close, what their money is, that's quite easy.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought, I just wanted to
Yeah.
triple check.
They used to have an office in there.
And then I had a question about the trading post, just because I don't know who owns it, but that little building is starting to look kind of, some holes in it. How does,
Donnie Buckley.
what?
Donnie Buckley owns the trading post.
Is there a system for which shop owners can help seek grant funding to shore up aesthetics?
There are historic preservation grants available through CPI and History Colorado. They apply for first historic building assessments, and then they go through the process to work with a nonprofit that acts as a grant administrator, and then a project manager or overseer for the historic preservation. They put a 50% lead into it, and they put in 50% to the scope of work, and then CPI, if they win the competitive grant, will give 50% to them for that work. Anything outside the scope of work will not be included within that. So then that's a secondary addendum to the grant, or they can apply for a separate grant or for other funds. Sometimes what that means is that they have to apply for loans. As far as maintenance work or deferred maintenance, CPI won't do that. The company that does that in this town is the Georgetown Trust for Conservation and Preservation Incorporated. We have reached out to Tommy Buckley about one of his buildings, not that one necessarily, but a more important building, because we work with Nysel and Anderson for their facade and for their interior. We have interior and exterior facade easements in that building now, but their facade was falling down, and if we did, and if it weren't done, their facade would fall into the street. I'm hoping that Tommy Buckley will, or Donnie Buckley rather, I'm so sorry I used to say Donnie. Donnie Buckley will, on his own, do it. Sometimes they do it on their own because there are fewer restrictions and there are fewer worries about what you're going to get into. But what we do need to do is look at those buildings because of the lack of structural integrity on the facade of that brick. It's a single building. And the people that are smarter at that are already doing that to make sure that we don't have it fall into the street. It's not a hazard.
Yeah, she's talking about the trading post.
Trading post across the street, and that's that facade, I believe, was at in the 80s, right?
There's another aspect to that as well, and it's demolition by decline on historical structures.
Yeah.
That's
And so is that code compliance then?
But I don't know if he's,
And does that look like?
I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah,
they're all
That-
essentially, other than that,
fall
it's just-
into-
Well, yeah, because there's.
I don't know if it does, I have to look at it. I mean, I'm writing it down, but
You wish.
And then, sorry, my very last thing is I'd like to look into, sorry to sneak attack.
Anyway, I did that on purpose. Also, if that's something you're looking into doing for your historic building, please talk to me, and I can hook this up with the people that need to do that, because we do have a lot of historic structures on 6th Street that need that kind of help.
So that's the kind of support the commission can offer, is just you being.
Well, I just have to be a company that does that.
Yeah.
Or you represent a company that does that, other people with the chairs, be like that.
And then would it be possible, I don't know how you feel about this, I'm just emailing you on it separately, also, I'm sorry, but have you guys you've been to the rec center, right? You see that they have that TV in there that shows you all the upcoming events. Would you be interested, or could we look into doing something like that in the visitor center, either in the shop or outside of the shop, that shows everything that Georgetown has coming up? Making like,
I
I'm
would love
smiling only because there was a lot of positive energy on that a while back, and,
oh, cool.
and again, I think when we visit our budget and we're enhancing tourism because we have additional funding, these are some of the projects that we should be considering.
I would argue that the kiosk goes to the thrive, not survive mentality of let's push people
Sure.
into the town.
So we can talk about some kind of an arrangement.
Yeah.
We can no longer afford to do everything at the visitor center, right?
Right.
We've lost $75,000 in the flood last year. We are looking at stagnant support from CDOT for 10 years. While we have increases in our sales because we happen to be a busy shop that we target our audience, we also have increased expenses of our company. So we can talk about an arrangement. We can see what works with that. But we do all kinds of public outreach there in our mission, but the town support is a pass-through support. We do not receive financial support from the town, so I'd love to talk to the commission about a financial arrangement to do something like that.
I feel like that would be useful for.
It's all our priorities.
And then, and I'm sorry, I know I said last thing, but to Paul's point about having QR codes, maybe we could put QR code stickers on the charging station that would link to the Georgetown
Well,
page.
who owns the charging stations, the county?
They were gonna be ours and then if the county wants it.
So could we do, I mean, would we just ask the county permission for that, or?
They might want their name on the sign again, you know, it might be a turn.
If we could put QR codes by the charging station that just links to the events page, that would be.
We put them on the bridge?
I think it's the county's, I don't know what it is.
Can I put on the tree near the bridge?
Yeah, go for it.
Or put a sign that's we can put a small sign that's beside the charging station where it has a QR code kind of thing.
Yeah, it just says check out Georgetown events,
Yeah.
QR code, yeah.
That's probably the best way, because they already switched out the charging stations once, that's the second generation that's been
The
doing it.
only thing I'm concerned about is, as soon as you put a sticker somewhere, then others are gonna put stickers on it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it just becomes stickers.
Yeah, any kind of signage by the charging station to get people that are just sitting in their car.
Yeah.
Waiting for charging.
Okay.
That, I promise that was it, thank
Even
you.
a sign in the window at, you know, Mountain Buzz or other
Uh-huh.
storefronts and
Yeah, we
places
stick one.
that our QR code is all over there,
All
yeah.
merchants should have
Yeah.
those QR codes in our window.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I can design those, and also if we do eventually get funding to put things in the visitor center, I can help design those, so it's more in budget or in-house,
Great.
not expending our budget.
Well, you can put things,
I would put things anywhere.
we can put things in the visitor center. When we get started into permanent structures and use of space and different things like that, that's completely different. We, of course, do nothing but support this town, and that's what we were about.
Yeah.
And we do all kinds of stuff that goes under the radar, but there's certain things I want to chat about with that. I'm looking into a commercial television right now. You do need to do a commercial television because they're on 24/7 on another dead TV. And you want it to be able to be connected to the internet. They're right now about $1,000. They go up from there.
And I think you want some kind of casing if it is in the main hall to prevent vandalism.
And then fine.
If we put QR codes on a decal, and we can put them in our windows, I don't want people.
The county just did that, the county just distributed a QR code to businesses.
For all the town events?
I think it's for county events, I haven't used the QR code, it's
We
sitting
do
with
it for our events,
Yeah.
I'll be glad to distribute that.
For
Well, our
sure.
marketing coordinator will follow up on
She will
that.
do that. Okay, let's move on, are we through?
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you very much.
great, thanks for all that. Recommendation of parks referencing 2023 scope development record, what is that?
I don't know.
Okay, I think that is in the leftover
I
from the
think that's
monument.
leftover from.
Okay, let's take that off.
3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, I think
I
you're
like
right.
it, I like
Every
it.
month I'm confused by what that means.
Strike
so
that.
Strike it. Okay, Mr. Peruglian, hi. I loved seeing you in the car yesterday. I had no idea who the VIP was in the back.
Well, I had no idea that we would be
that.
done 30 minutes before the parade. You know?
Isn't that an awesome car?
Oh, the mayor?
Yeah, I mean, I just couldn't understand why we took off. And, you know, when I looked, it was 30 minutes before the parade came, so I was like, what's going on?
Typically-
I didn't like that, so I felt like that was so not consistent.
I don't even know what.
The Busy Bee, I was with
It
Marvin.
didn't break down this
But
year.
they were supposed to be right before the.
Yes,
Yeah, but there was a delay.
yeah.
Yeah.
There were gaps. We gotta
I think
figure
there
out
was
the
an issue with
gaps.
police right before. Typically, Amanda was telling me the Busy Bee goes first because it does die before, so I'm really glad that it made it all the way through. But there was an issue that made John a little bit more behind and then the parade.
Yeah, and evidently there was a person trying to bring their delivery at the same
Oh,
time.
the Shamrock, yep.
Yeah, that kind of happened around that time too. So anyways, it was fun. It was just like, and it was just done. And then you turn around going, I thought they were all behind, we're the cavalry.
Oh,
It's like one firework goes
Yes.
off and then.
Exactly, just one firework went off. I thought it was great though. Congrats for your first event. I mean, that was a big, big thing. And this one felt a lot more smooth to me. I mean, we just, it was great. I enjoyed it. We had a lot of family and friends in town and they loved it. Just some things to be aware of. ESI, that's the paving company that's doing stuff for Georgetown. All the concrete work has been done that we paid for already, so that's 8th Street. That one kind of ran into a little complications. It wasn't supposed to be that wide. It was like 5 foot wide sidewalks. It was supposed to be 4 foot. but we had, it's like, for some reason, it wasn't worked out. It was worked out on paper until we got there, and then when they finally showed up, it was like, this isn't gonna work. The fall was not, they had to go wider in order to create enough slope. You have to have a 1-inch slope to create a fall to convey the water back. If not, then we're digging deep to go the opposite direction, and that wasn't gonna work. And so anyways, it works out. However, we told them to paint just on the fire hydrant side, 25 feet, and yet it was painted on both sides. And so I'm like, gosh, I thought that was very clear, but we're gonna figure out a way to remove the red paint on the opposite side of the street. Is 25 feet. The other side was only like 10 feet. So it was completely done the wrong what we asked. So that was a little headache. But it did serve its purpose, and that was what Kelly's concern was, is if you have people parking on both sides, now you can't get a fire truck in there. And so it does serve that purpose, you can't park them there. But we are encouraging people to park on the sidewalk because it's wide enough and it's got a slope so that they can do that to get off the street. And we spoke to the homeowners and they're aware of that, so that's it. We do have enough money to do the paving on Rose Street, and that'll be from 11th to 14th, or 15th, I think we're going all the way to 15th. The pans are already down there, so that was done earlier. So now, we'll instead of having the road crown, we're gonna slope it a little bit towards the creek, so that it would stop the water from going down into the mill site development. Although, I'm not convinced completely that that's where the water was coming from. I believe after the observations of the rain, the water's really coming from Marion, and it's just from the whole area. It's just a natural way the water flows. But we're not able to address that at this point. We don't have the funds. It will be addressed at some point. We'll probably put some kind of, I don't know, which culvert in there to then get the water to move. But that's going to be very expensive. We've had 3 engineering firms look at that. And we also found out that we own property there that we were going to look at affordable housing. Mr. Kent Sterrett, my quota for today. He calls every day. And so we got 3 engineers quotes to look at the property that we have looking at the feasibility for us to develop those sites for affordable housing. The problem is in the studies of this, all 3 engineering firms concluded that's the floodway. It's right in the floodway. And so, usually you don't build in the floodway, or you have to get special hoops you gotta go through and studies you have to do the floodplain. So floodplain is less, floodway is the worst case scenario. So.
I bought that land cheap.
Yeah, it is possible. It's just really expensive. You got to do all these Clomar studies and Lomar studies, and by the time we invest all that, we're losing all of our ARPA funds that we were going to dedicate to that. What's that?
I was turning this up. I'm trying to remember where that was.
Oh, okay. 15th and Rose?
Horse pasture, right?
No.
No, it's down below that.
No, it's just roundabout. If you just keep going to the east.
And where you are now.
Yeah. So anyways, that's where we're on that. We're still going to be paving Rose Street from, we're paving Rose from where the county annex building is all the way to 15th Street. So that's kind of that area. On our list was to address Main Street from 14th to Skyline. That road is it's probably the worst condition of Georgetown. It's lots of potholes all through it. We got estimates back and we can't afford it. So what we're going to look at is the most important part of that is doing the concrete pans, and then next year coming to then do the asphalt overlay on top to match the pan. So we've gotten several companies look at it, and it's cheaper to do the asphalt. However, then there's going to be gaps between the asphalt and the pan when they do that. So you always want to do the pans first, and then you put the asphalt to that. So we're going to kick the can on that, unfortunately, but we don't have a choice. And we're continuing to fill potholes as we see them. The roundabout we did that one. We filled the one that's in Argentine. However, going towards the hotel, there is a bad spot on the road, and I'm gonna try to get Scooter to see if he can fix it. It's just on the western, near the interstate side. The road's real jagged right there, and it cuts into the road. So I'm gonna see what he can do to kind of at least widen that, so if a car happens to swerve off that, I mean, it could be a hazard big time. So, other hazards we have addressed on Taos, around, between 8th and 9th Street, there was a lot of jagged old concrete that was on like the sidewalk section. We have removed that, and we put gravel down in its place. There's gravel all along that road. So we didn't tear out the sidewalk, we just took out the concrete that years ago when they did tear out the sidewalk, they just left that, and it was a tripping hazard. So we did remove that. And then, of course, we got a lot of neighbors around asking if we can fix their sidewalks. And it was like, well, technically, the code says sidewalks, your responsibility. The town only maintains when there's certain issues, but we have hazards everywhere. And we can only address the worst case scenarios right now. But the sidewalk is not the town's responsibility, it's actually the homeowners in front of that town. That's what town code says. So, but that's what that is. Oh, also, 22nd Street, you may have driven by and see that we're widening the trail section on the north end of 22nd Street. That's to keep pedestrians from walking in the street. And it has served a great purpose. I've noticed now a lot of people walking. Cars are also parking over there, so we're having to put boulders, because it's not to create more parking, it's to create a path for people to kind of do the whole loop now, instead of being in the street. So that's in play. We probably have about 70% of that done. So they did build it up on the backside with big rocks and boulders. They filled it in with gravel and then crusher fines on top.
I'm sorry, where did you say this was?
22nd Street near the lake, between the lagoon and lake, there's just a street that goes across the bridge. On the lake, the big lake is the north side, and so we're putting a trail. Eventually, we're gonna put a sidewalk on the other side, but we're gonna have to get a grant to do that, so. But that's moving really good, and we put no parking signs over there too, or at least that's what they were told to do. The trail sign, the Ben Hoff trail sign has been put back. It's just further down. That whole area where it was is actually, I'm trying to remember his name. He's the owner of the big brown house from the lake, Neil Duncan, just
Yeah.
So it's all his property, including our trail. So that's actually his property too. He allows us to keep the trail in front, but the sign was moved further where there's a bench. If you just keep walking on that trail, the first bench you come across, we put the sign right there. And it's also where the entrance to go, the trailhead that goes to the top. So it's all in that area, kind of makes sense to put it there. The police have moved out of this building, so now they're in the fire station, right on Brunel. And it's a bigger space for them, and you know, it's just a good feel all around, so they've updated that space. I'm taking their old space, and I'm in the process of gonna fix that office. And then Mary will take my old office and kind of do a little refresh with that too. I was trying to hire an assistant administrator, or assistant to the administrator, to be the assistant administrator. I feel like The Office about they talk with Dwight. But in reality, that's what we can afford. We can afford an assistant to the administrator, but with the hopes to develop that person. We spent a lot of recruiting. We interviewed 3 candidates. We were in unison and going after one candidate. We made an offer. That person took the weekend to decide. They declined the offer. And we looked at the other 2 candidates, and I just, they're not experienced enough to then go after. So I'm gonna hit a reset and start the process over again. I've already reached out to all the universities, like DU and Colorado University, Colorado State. I reached out to all their department heads in the Masters of Public Administration department to recruit any previous grad that is looking for, an en route into municipal government. So we're gonna try this again and then regroup at the end of July to see who we have, to kind of go again. I'm also reaching out to, I've reached out to Brian Bossart too. I know that they're making cuts and even services cuts because of their budget is, you know, they're almost 3 million in the deficit. So is there any higher level person that they may have to cut? Can you let us know? We may be able to recruit that person so it wouldn't be such a strain. But that's what we're looking for, a higher level person to be able to come in who we wouldn't have to hold their hand. I mean, I know we're gonna develop them, but I don't have time to do 2 jobs. And it's just, it's wearing now.
Because that was gonna be my question, is as to the universities, would annual internships be helpful? But that would probably be more training on your part than it's, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not looking for a best and brightest intern. You kind of get what you get. You don't really get a chance to recruit who you want. And I'm just too many projects going on. You know, I was just waiting for you to say, you know, give me one more project, but I'm glad you did. Like, oh, could Rick do the grant? I'm like, no.
Oh, you mean, I didn't tell you that I wanted to talk to you after this meeting?
Are you offering?
No, that's why I said no. Although Jessica, I bet would be you'd love to learn how to do that.
I've done some great writing before.
Yeah, and we can connect you with Cindy and some others who
Will
really.
you hold my hand? Show me how to do the job. I'll do it.
No, but this would be an example. Jess came in, we're not holding Jess's hand. We're kind of grooming to help her, but she knows what to do, and that's what we're looking for in this position, so in that.
Perfect.
I'll take an intern.
Keep it up.
I know, right?
I'll take a high school intern at this point, they're a little more social than me.
We might have a delinquent that does toilets, you know, that.
Well, it sounds like we're having 2 men to go intimidate a girl, so I mean, you put me in,
No, no,
I'll
no.
show you my little lackey.
No, I appreciate all the words. We're doing this, we feel like using as a teachable moment
Yes,
to try
sorry.
to shape our youth. And we've done it before in Georgetown, but there was another situation, instead of writing a ticket, we handled it in a discussion to make sure the parent was involved too. And the parent actually came back and thanked us for the way that we handled it. So I'm like, I would rather go that route.
And that went a lot more.
And that person is a minority, the other person was a minority, and it was great. I loved it. I loved the, you know, the restoration piece, you know, helping somebody get another chance and for a situation.
Wonderful, that's actually the best.
So, let's see, I have met with Kent Starrett, and he's proposed some stuff to bring to the Board of Selectmen. And so, it's an awkward situation, because it pits us, it's trying to make us look like the bad guy, but yet somehow we can be a good guy at the end, but it's just, I don't know. I'm not gonna go into it, but I will bring it to you guys. We had a fantastic meeting with Excel, just to let you know. Excel, it's been a battle for a year with us. This last meeting was actually really good. They're proposing a bypass that would go start. I don't know how big size, but we're talking about this size, and I mean, I don't remember if it was 48 or something.
I think it was like a 3-foot.
Okay, 36,
Something like that.
36 inches to 42 inches or something they were looking at. But it would bypass before it even goes into the reservoir there, and then it would dump out after the dam. But the whole reason they were proposing that is to address the containment of the sediment that we're concerned about. That sediment's very deep, and as it keeps it in a low hazard condition, which means you have to keep the water really low. And the problem with that is when the water's really low, when heavy storms come through, it literally carves into the sediment and it goes downstream and it shuts down our plant every time. And the turbidity and the solids in the water, it may look clear, but when you do a reading, if it is higher than a 30 something, I don't know what they call that, DPI or whatever that is. It looks clear.
It looks clear, I mean, it's a lot, you say, oh, this looks okay.
Yeah.
And they were just doing like visual tests before, and
It's way
Our
too late.
threshold for shutting down the water plant is, like orders of magnitude lower
Yes,
than what they would typically do, what Excel would typically do to monitor it.
correct, so
But they're
visually,
aware of that now, they're working with Ryan to
yeah,
come up with a program to monitor
yeah.
it more technically.
And more, getting ahead of that before, because then we can have direct communication and shut down our plant if they're gonna be doing things with it. But before, it was kind of like, well, we're just monitoring visually. By the time you see it visually change, it's way too late. I mean, our plant's already in shutdown mode, and so, but they agreed that the bypass would eliminate that. It would eliminate the carving into the sediment, and dumping into our system. So that's one. The second one was, they want to replace the trash rack, which then prevents bigger debris like sticks and leaves from getting in and clogging it up and then creating the rise of the water. They're trying to keep the low rise. However, they wanted to put this thing called like a coffer box so that sediment would fall into that first before it even get into the system. So that addresses the immediate and the long term. The immediate is getting the sediment to drop. The long term is getting, because this may take 3 or 4 years before they actually decommission this. Having the bypass would then give us the assurance they're going to contain that sediment so it doesn't get in, because it's bypassing now.
Do they clean out the coffer box on a,
They would be monitoring that coffer box.
and that's their responsibility?
That would be
not
their
ours?
responsibility, correct. And then I think that helps them gauge to see how much sediment is just coming into that. Because that would just be regular, normal, because the bypass would take the bulk of the water away from that. But they're at least acknowledging that they have responsibility for this. And so that's huge on our end. But they did bring some higher up people, and they were able to reassure all of us that they were thinking about and making decisions of even making sure Ryan is satisfied with the testing, even the water quality testing. Because at first it was like 3 or 4 things. Now it's whatever Georgetown wants to test, we will test. So that's a different thing. So that's just an update on that. I think that's the big rocks.
I'll handle
Go ahead.
Circling back to roads paving, so the suburbanization, paving of the roads in Georgetown, is that determined by planning? Who determines that? That we're paving streets that were previously paved?
No, this is already paved.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a previously paved road. We're not going after like Griffith, which is completely unpaved. Those we're still maintaining with a grader when potholes come. This Rose Street has been paved, the lower end has been paved for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for correcting me.
Yeah. And the suburbanization, what was that?
Oh, did I say that?
I caught that.
I was I worked for a green building company, and that's why I'm into things like pervious pavement, and I don't believe in paving dirt roads with impervious pavement, and creating the problems that we did when we did Grinnell Pass and then Rose Street.
Yeah, those are newer technologies that we are looking at, especially for parking lots. Like why run the stormwater off? Let's let it go into the ground.
Yeah, that's the idea, percolation. Thank you. I just want to say thank you for the work that you've been doing with the Excel Energy Company. I think something that's not, with that sediment being so deep and the way they're testing it, that the level of mine tailings, it's terrifying what's underneath there to me. Mm-hmm. And that you have been able to progress from such a point to where you are now is amazing. And I think it's great work that you're doing and your committee is doing, Mr. Hamilton. Thank you very much.
Very good. All right, time for minutes approval. I hope you've all had a chance to look at our minutes from June 7, 2023. Is there any feedback?
Have a great day.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from Wednesday, June 7th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Aye.